I'm Neil, and I'm the teacher.
And I'm Sean, and I'm the deal maker.
Together,
We're the Rise Guys.
Most people study for the exam like it is a memory test. Then they sit down and the questions are nothing like flashcards. Here's what the exam is actually built to measure and how you rise to meet it. Let me start with the mistake I see all the time. Most people study for the exam like it is a memory test. They make flashcards, they memorize definitions, they drill terms until they can recite them in their sleep. Then they sit down for the real thing, and the questions are nothing like flashcards. And here's the important part. That is by design, and it is a good thing. RECA builds the exam to measure real competence, not just recall. It is testing whether you can actually do the job, whether you can reason through a real situation the way a working professional has to. That is exactly what makes an Alberta license mean something when you finally earn it. So today I want to pull back the curtain and show you how the exam is actually built, because once you understand what it is asking of you, you can prepare for it properly and rise to meet it. So how is the exam actually built? It is built on something called Bloom's taxonomy. If you have never heard of it, it is simply a way of sorting thinking from the simplest level up to the most complex. Picture a ladder. The exam tests competencies across the whole length of that ladder, from the bottom rung all the way to the top. At the lowest rung, you get a basic definition. What does this term mean? That is pure recall, and those questions are the easy points. But as you climb the ladder, the thinking gets more demanding. At the highest rung, you get complex scenario-based reasoning. Here's a situation. Here are the people involved. Now, what should the professional actually do? That is not something you can memorize. You have to understand the material well enough to apply it. When you know the exam is built this way, you stop being surprised by the harder questions. You expect them, and you study to climb the whole ladder, not just the bottom of it. Once you understand the ladder, the way you study changes. Do not stop at the definition. When you learn a term, take the next step and ask yourself how it actually plays out in a real deal. Who is affected? What is the professional supposed to do? What happens if they get it wrong? That habit of reasoning through situations instead of just recalling facts is exactly what the top rungs of the exam reward. Think about where the points are won. The easy recall questions are points you simply should not miss, so lock those in. But the exam is really decided on the scenario questions, the ones that ask you to apply what you know. Building that reasoning skill is how you clear the harder rungs, and it is the difference between knowing the material and being ready to be tested on it. Now, let me tell you the shapes those questions can take, because knowing the format ahead of time takes a lot of the stress out of exam day. There are three you should expect. The first is multiple choice, where you pick the best answer from the options in front of you. The second is matching, where you connect items that belong together, like pairing a term with its correct description. And the third is visual identification, where you have to recognize something on site. When you know all three formats are on the table, you walk in expecting each one and nothing catches you off guard. You can practice each style before exam day so it feels familiar. And when the format is familiar, you get to spend your energy on the actual thinking the question is asking for instead of figuring out how the question works. That is a real advantage, and it is completely within your control. So here is what I want you to carry into your prep from now on. The exam tests real competence, and it does that across a whole range, from basic definitions all the way up to complex scenarios. Expect 3-question formats, multiple choice, matching, and visual identification, so none of them catch you off guard. And one more thing that matters, RECA keeps the exam current, updating it to stay relevant. So make sure you are preparing with the latest resources rather than something out of date. When you study to reason and not just to recall, you are matching exactly how the exam is built. And that is how you set yourself up to win. This is a good exam. It is built to make sure the people who pass it are genuinely ready. And now you know how to rise to what it asks. If you have got a specific question that is tripping you up, bring it to our Thursday live webinar and we will work through it together. That is the show for this week. I will see you in the next one. New webinar summary every week. Subscribe so you never miss one.